We are going to start recording. Hello, everybody. Stephen and Contrara here with Compassionate Finance. We are here today to talk about something that's very interesting. It's kind of like the same reason that Walmart sells tires, right? Because they want to be everything to their customer. And in your instance, you want to be everything to your patient. Why send them around for numerous appointments around town when maybe you can consolidate all those services your patient is looking for under one roof? And I think Dr. Baird will have some great recommendations of kind of how to do that, when to invest in education, how to really turn yourself into a super GP. So good morning, Dr. Baird.
Good morning, Stephen. How are you this morning?
Doing very well, sir.
Awesome. As you can tell, I've got my special attire on this morning because I'm going through a move and all my stuff is packed. This is the last time you'll see this background on one of our Facebook Lives, webinars, or whatever. We're moving to a new house. Who knows what the background will be there. But I'll be in a motorhome probably for the next 3 to 4 weeks, so that'll make it really interesting. But yeah, the topic about a super GP, there's a lot of different ways that we can look at that. And what's important to understand is that it depends really upon what phase of your dental practice you're in. Let's say, for example, you're in your early part of the dental practice and fairly new out of dental school. Well, what you're going to find is you may not have the training or the experience to be able to offer 10 different options, and the mid-level practice has been around for 15, 20 years, and they've been going to CE over a period of time, and they may or may not love doing everything there is to do in dentistry. So the early practice, what I always recommend is education. And at Productive Dentist Academy, we talk about 5 to 8% budget for education and for coaching. And I think that's super important so that we only see what we know. And the truth is, if you just don't know something, every time I go to a seminar, I go to a course, I learn something new. I went to Pat Allen's course on connective tissue grafting. Wow, I never looked at recession the same way again. And I can say that about 50 different courses that I've gone to over 40 years. So as a young dentist, be committed to the educational process. Now, there are some dentists that want to do everything. I'm one of those dentists. I love doing, except endo, I love doing Lanap surgery with the periolace. I love doing implants. I love doing veneers. I love doing smiles. And I've gone to training with Mish and with all the different people that I consider to be the best of the best in each area. And then I love being able to look at a patient's mouth and say, this is what I recommend. And I pretty well do most of the different types of treatments. Now, there are a lot of dentists out there. Some of my dentist buddies decided they just wanted to do implants. And these are guys that I'd trained with. And so they specialized in one area. And that kind of differentiates your practice. You have to be careful. If that's what you want to do, you can certainly do that. But you have to be a little careful if you're trying to have a practice that offers all the services. What you may want to do is, as your career is progressing, you may want to find additional associates, partners in the practice that love doing things that you don't love doing. We've worked with lots of dentists over the last 30 years, and we've got dentists that love doing Invisalign and sleep, or they love doing Invisalign, sleep, and 6-month smiles. And that's what I'm going to use the word specialize in, but they bring in additional dentists that like doing implants and like doing, other things, so that they're marketing what I would call authentic marketing, which you're marketing to things that you want to bring into your business. That marketing becomes very specific. And so I tell the story in implants. For many years, I was marketing implants because I've been through this. This is in the late 80s, early 90s. Not many guys were doing them. Even oral surgeons and periodontists weren't doing them. But, I was marketing that. And I had a buddy of mine come up to me on the tee box and said, "Hey, what do you think about my smile?" And I went, what'd you do? He said, "Well, I had some veneers done." I said, "Well, why didn't you let me do them?" he said, well, I thought you just did implants. And so you've got to be careful what type of marketing you do. At that point, I said, no, I don't just want to do implants. If I wanted to just do implants, could I have done that? Absolutely. I could have had an implant exclusive practice, but that's not what I personally wanted to do. I love doing all kinds of things. So as a young dentist, you can begin to go to lots of continuing education. And even as an old dentist, I still go to continuing education, and I've hung the handpiece up. I'm not even practicing, but I just went to Ryan Dunlap's course on implants and digital printing and all types of stuff like that because I'm interested in it. I still love it. It's kind of funny. My wife said, "What are you doing?" I'm watching Baron Gruder on on Facebook and on YouTube. And she goes, "Why are you doing that? You're retired." I said, "I'm not retired. I'm not dead. I want to know this stuff because I love dentistry and I love being able to stay on the cutting edge because, hey, I may go back. Who knows? But I also have lots of dentists that ask me questions and wonder, what would you do, Bruce, if this was you? And initially, be committed to education. I did a podcast not long ago called Excellence versus Perfection. Well, I believe there's only one person that's ever been perfect, and it wasn't me, and it wasn't any of my buds. But what I can tell you is I continuously strive for excellence. I had a goal early on in my practice. I wanted it to be a model practice, and that model practice grew from, we did $1 million in production our first year in a small town in Texas. But what I will tell you is the thing that made the biggest difference wasn't me doing all the dentistry. I literally brought in a periodontist. I brought in an oral surgeon. I brought in somebody doing endo, and I did more of the things that I wanted to do. As I got more training in implants, I decided I don't need an oral surgeon. I love doing thirds. That's not a problem. So I got rid of that oral surgeon. As I continued early in my practice, I ended up doing all the perio surgery, using Lanap. That started probably 17 years ago. So I structurally set it up so that we were a super practice with specialists. This is in 1985. Why? Because when a patient comes in from a marketing perspective, I want to be able to offer them everything there is to offer in our practice. And I want to be able to use my diagnostic capabilities to be able to look at a patient and say, this is what I would do if it was me. And that's really what I've always done. But becoming a super GP, we know that those docs tend to use compassionate finance a lot because they market to all of these patients that come in. And what you do is 50% can qualify for some kind of third-party financing, but what about these others that can't? Well, if I'm doing the work, I can control my overhead. I can control my expenses. And that's where compassionate finance, as long as I get a down payment to cover my hard costs, I've actually increased my value per hour. My production per hour value goes way up because I'm able to offer all the services in-house. Now, if you hate doing endo like I do, find a partner or an associate that loves doing endo. If you love doing implants, but you're in a transition, you're in the later stages of your dental practice, those type practices are very hard to sell to a young dentist. So what I recommend there is you bring in a stallion young dentist or a good young dentist that loves implants or that wants to learn more about implants, and you start teaching them how to do it so that when you transition, you've got somebody that can step right into your practice. And that can literally make an amazing difference as you're in transition. So as you see, there's different strategies for a young dentist. Mid-career, my suggestion is if you love doing everything, do everything and market authentically, meaning market to the things that you love to do. Don't just get new patients. I mean, every morning on LinkedIn, I look and it's like, oh, I'm going to bring you 125 new patients. No worries. I don't want 125 new patients. I want 25 that need a whole shitload of work. That's what I want. And I want to be able to do it all in-house. I don't want to have to refer it out. I mean, what is your orthodontist given you for Christmas, a bag of peanuts or something like that, yet you referred them $400,000 worth of dentistry. Hey, yeah, that's great. Your oral surgeon, how much stuff do you send him to do implants or to do all this other stuff? You may be sending him $500,000 a year. Well, guess whose marketing it is that you're sending him $500,000? You're the one doing the marketing. You're paying for it. And he's sitting there going like, bring it on, baby. I love it. I love this. So I guarantee you, if I was a specialist, I would handle my referral network very differently. We'd be going on trips to Pebble Beach. We'd be going and doing some real stuff, fun stuff, instead of here's what is it? The flavored popcorn in the jar. That's great. Thank you. Oh boy, how much did I send you? Go run your reports and find out what you send out of the office. The super GP is the one who doesn't have to do it all himself, but builds a business that can handle everything in-house. Whether you bring in that specialist, then you can control costs. You can control, and we find the usage of compassionate finance and other options for good treatment planning. That is where I recommend that you look. So, Stephen, that's my take on the Super GP. And let's see if we have any questions. Do you have any questions? I know we get questions every week online.
Absolutely. Sometimes they come in Facebook after the fact, and we get emails after the fact. But those orthodontists could save those Russell Stofers for somebody else, because you're able to treat your patients now. A friend of mine, Dr. Daniel Baird over at Crosstown Dentists, he did a great thing when he took a 6-month Smiles course. He hired an orthodontic assistant to come in a couple days during the week, and that's when they're doing all their braces on. He's like,
Right.
I don't need to know how to do this. I just need to look at it, bless it, make sure everything's good. And, doing those kind of strategies really can make you a one-stop shop. And man, my Facebook is full of ads for implants. And a lot of folks come back to me and say, like, we do all these ads for implants. Any idea how to get these patients qualified? That's where the big tie-in is, right? When you use something like compassionate finance. So as you expand out to all these, education matters, think about how your patient's going to afford some of this newfound dentistry that you're offering them. Use the technology you're investing in.
In our business, I mean, we were literally, we talk about an 8% marketing budget. And so when I was doing $50,000 a month, we had a $4,000 budget. When it jumped to 100, we had an 8. When it jumped to 200, we had 16. When it jumped to 300, we had 24. When it jumped to 500, you get the gist. I've got more marketing dollars going out into our community, and it made no more sense for me to do it in my community. So we began to go outside of the community to market towards implants, LANAP surgery, and all that. Why? Because we had the budget. Now, the worst thing you can do, let's say you're spending $40,000 and you're bringing in 100 new patients, and you're doing this $40,000 a month, and this is a large number. Most dentists are marketing 3,000 or 4,000. But remember how I did it. Started at 4, went to 8. It became a part of my business, a part of my growth strategy. And the sad part is you bring in 100 new patients, but yet for higher end procedures, authentic marketing, but only half can afford to do the treatment because you don't have the financial options for the others to do it. So I spent half of my budget to bring in half those patients that couldn't even do the work. Well, now with compassionate finance, as long as I got my hard costs covered, my productivity per hour jumped beyond the average dentist is at $425 an hour. It jumped way beyond 500, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000, 2,500, 3,000, 3,000 an hour. Some of that was compassionate finance, but if my time has a value put on it, the higher the value, the more I like it. And that's why I was able to work for 16 years, 2 days a week, and produce $2 million and have compassionate finance revenue coming in that pandemic-proof my business. So, and we saw that pandemic proofing. We saw that over the last 7-8 months. And but everybody that's out there that's doing marketing and that's not just signed up for PPOs, if you're doing marketing, about half your budget is being wasted because you don't have the financial options to help them actually get the work done. Well, I don't want to waste that. I've already spent that money. I just soon use it and find a way for them to do it. I've said a million times, I said, we don't have a shortage of dentists out there. We have a shortage of good financial arrangements. And that's where compassionate finance plays a role.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, we've talked about other things too, like that monthly recurring revenue. That's another thing that will pandemic proof your practice. It's just good to have an option to make your practice agile for when that patient's in the chair. It doesn't matter where their whatever fork in the road their pocketbook's going to lead you to, you're going to have an option for them.
Yep, no question. We have that option. And I just love having the revenue coming in on a regular basis. And, it allows me to help people that I really want to help, but I didn't really know how to help them before. And that's the doing good while doing good. It's our philosophy, do good while doing good. And, I like being very productive. And people say, well, my patients don't want to pay interest. Bullshit. They're paying interest when they go buy a car. They're paying interest when they bought their house. That's totally crap. Well, and you do too. 90% of the dentists out there pay interest. And so, yes, would we rather not? Okay. We've got an entire group that is out there that charges no interest using compassionate finance. Why? Well, for religious reasons, they don't do that. But they've increased their fees by 20% across the board. And they, so in essence, it's semantics. So patients want monthly payments they can afford. And interest doesn't make that big a difference, but it covers your risk. And that's where compassionate plays such a huge role. So.
Yeah. I mean, well said. I mean, like, I think the moral of the story is go out there, get education, add service mix to your practice, and then have pathways for your patients to pay, and you will win, win, win.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, Stephen. Appreciate it. Do we have any more questions or we're good for the day?
That'll be it for today, but join
Okay.
us again next Monday at 10 o'clock. And also next week, Dr. Baird's going to be, he's going to be on Mark Costas's Dentalpreneur podcast. So I'll put a link out there for y'all to listen to that. Always a good time when those two get together. So looking forward.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to Mark. So it'll be good. All right, guys. Thanks. See you next time.
Good one.